Naturally, people can't appreciate what they can't see. A person who can't identify patterns and synthesize doesn't know what it's like to see patterns and synthesize any more than a colorblind person knows what it's like to see color. These differences in how our brains work are much less apparent than the differences in how our bodies work. Morning, everybody. Just pinned myself and had a little bit of challenges with the new system that I'm using, but that's all good. Hope you are all well and ready for an amazing day. I'm looking forward to doing some reading for you. Yesterday we had a really good reading, so let's get into it and do another one so that you are motivated, have some things to think about, things to potentially implement. It's another great day. Here we go. Okay, so we are, for those of you who have not been before, reading Principles by Dalio, and we are already on page 184. Here we go. Your 2 U's fight to control you was the last piece that we read. So we're going to be radically open-minded, recognize your 2 barriers, understand your ego, and your 2 U's fight to control you. So there's two people inside of us, and they fight with each other, and the one that wins is the one that gets the most attention. We spoke about a couple of ways in which you can stop that from happening. And if you missed that, you'll be able to see the recording on Zoom at the Passive Cash Flow Club. We have all of them recorded. We have a couple of other books. But for today, let's get into it. We're up to part C, Understanding Your Blind Spot Barrier. Let's do this. Okay. Understand your blind spot barrier. In addition to your ego barrier, you and everyone else also have blind spots, areas where your way of thinking prevents you from seeing things accurately. Just as we all have different ranges for hearing pitch and seeing colors, we have different ranges for seeing and understanding things. We each see things in our own way. For example, some people naturally see big pictures and miss small details, while others naturally see details and miss big pictures. Some people are linear thinkers, while others think laterally, and so on. This is really interesting because we talk about truth and facts and all of these kinds of things, and yet there are different perspectives that different people are going to have. And what really determines what is truth and what really determines what is fact? Very, very fascinating. I'm always fascinated by how humans want to make everything black and white, whereas almost nothing is really black and white. Let's continue. Naturally, people can't appreciate what they can't see. A person who can't identify patterns and synthesize doesn't know what it's like to see patterns and synthesize any more than a colorblind person knows what it's like to see color. These differences in how our brains work are much less apparent than the differences in how our bodies work. So coming up very soon, we have a networking event. And one of the reasons I like running networking events is because we all have our things that our brains are all different. So some people are going to be very analytical. Some people are going to be more action takers and doers, and they can't analyze things. They just need somebody else to analyze and then get and do it. So networking allows you to meet new people who are different to you. And so then you can surround yourself with people who complement you. And that is how the most successful people are able to achieve amazing things. Because by yourself, you don't have all the skills necessary, and yeah, you'd be quite, you'd be deluding yourself if you think that you have every possibility, you have no weaknesses, and you can do everything. If you are an analytical person, then you need somebody around you who is a little bit less analytical. And then you need to learn to get along with them, of course, because those two could clash. But if you work on that relationship, then it becomes possible. And so make sure that you surround yourself with lots of different people and learn how to interact with them and learn how to put together teams. And then you can do some really amazing things that you would never be able to do on your own. Okay, here we go. Colorblind people eventually find out that they are colorblind, whereas most people never see or understand the ways in which their ways of thinking make them blind. To make it even harder, we don't like to see ourselves or others as having blind spots, even though we all have them. When you point out somebody's psychological weakness, it's generally about as well received as if you pointed out a physical weakness. If you're like most people, you have no clue how other people see things and aren't good at seeking to understand what they are thinking because you're too preoccupied with telling them what you yourself think is correct. This is one of the reasons I'm a very big fan of taking the time to listen. They do say you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth because you need to listen more than you speak. In other words, you are closed-minded. You presume too much. This closed-mindedness is terribly costly. It causes you to miss out on all sorts of wonderful possibilities and dangerous threats that other people might be showing you. And it blocks criticism that could be constructive and even life-saving. The end result of these two barriers is that parties in disagreements typically remain convinced that they're right and often end up angry at each other. This is illogical and leads to suboptimal decision-making. So I always believe it's extremely important to work on not reacting and taking the time to listen to everybody's opinion and not just writing it straight off, but realizing that we ourselves, even though we think we're perfect because that's what we need to do, we need to justify everything that we do in life. If we take the time to just take a step back and listen first, we can always think about it later ourselves. There's a famous story, I think it was from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there is somebody sitting at the table, and somebody mentioned something that was a quote by Shakespeare, I think. And he knew that it wasn't Shakespeare. So he went to tell the other person that it wasn't Shakespeare. He wanted to be right. He wanted to correct the other person. He wanted to show how smart he was. And yet he got a kick from under the table and somebody else told him, don't do it. And he wasn't certain of why. And the reason is, especially in front of other people, you don't want to correct somebody because that's obviously not very nice for the other person to be corrected. And secondly, this person is convinced that he's correct. So all you're going to do is just argue with that person and they feel bad. You might feel good, but ultimately you're not going to feel good because you might lose a friend or they might be upset or the relationship might get a little bit colder. The best thing to do is, one, do it in private, but also check yourself maybe first. So if you know that it is somebody else, maybe double check and see whether they are right or not. Because sometimes we think we are 100% right, but our memory plays tricks on us in certain ways. There are memory techniques. So I learned these when I was in high school, and there are ways in which you can memorize much better. But our mind generally plays tricks with us. So it's really good to actually start having a look at what is really the truth. Do some research and see whether you're right or not. And you can. So I always find that it's good to just let somebody be if they prefer to be that way. If they are open to, and if they want you to let them know if there is something that they haven't said correctly, then maybe check with them first. Tell them that you think that there is something that you discovered and whether they are open to knowing. And that way they can say yes or no. And this is what you want to do with every conversation. You want to make sure that you are not just pushing what you believe, but that you are open-minded in that moment because they could have weaknesses and they might be wrong. But also we need to realize that the same is going to be happening for us. So if we can do that every single time, and I know it takes practice, it's not something that you just do like that. But if you can become more conscious of those moments, we spoke about this yesterday, just catch yourself on certain things. And when you start to do that, then it's going to make it much easier for you to be able to communicate with people. It's going to make it much easier for you to be able to then get better results. Because when we only look at our own thinking and we think that it's always correct, our results will show whether it's correct or not. If we are successful, then we might be correct. But very often we will keep doing the same thing over and over again that is actually not correct. So we might think we need to invest, and we might use a system that causes us to lose money consistently. There are ways to prevent that from happening. There are ways to actually protect your capital on the way down. There are all these different shortcuts that you can use. But if you don't know them, then you're going to think that you are correct. And we don't know what we don't know. We don't know the things that other people know that we've never heard about, that we've never experienced, that we've never seen. So if we stop, listen, and take the time to learn from other people and let go of that ego that we naturally have. So it's just normal, natural thing. But if we can learn to let go of that, then we can be open to and receive and see all these new things that we never saw before. So for example, I'm going to give you a quick example because I think this would be really important, and especially for anybody that's interested in investing. If you are trading, for example, and you have, let's say, $1,000 worth of capital, and you say, I'm going to invest 10% of my capital. So you take $10 and you invest that. So you've got, let's make it simpler. Let's do 100, and you say, I'm going to use 10% of my capital. So you take $10 and you invest that. Now, if you lose on that trade, do you use another 10%? Do you put another $10 in? Or now that you've got 90 left, do you put in 9 into the next trade? See, most people would keep putting 10, put 10, put 10, put 10 again. The challenge with that is that if you keep putting the 10, after 10 times, if you are wrong, you're going to have lost all of your money. But if you put in 10, then you put 9, and then if you lose again, you again only put 10% of what you have left. Then after 10 trades, you're probably going to have about 40% left. So you're not going to be down to 0 again. And the same on the way up. If you then trade and you put the 10 and you make 10, now you put in 11 into the trade. So 10% of the 110 that you now have. If you do that, then it is going to be, you're going to accumulate much faster. But if you didn't know that principle, then you are not going to be able to implement it. If somebody tells you about it, but you believe that your way is right, no, I'm going to keep putting my 10. Then if you have consistent bad trades, then it's going to prevent you from being able to hold on to your capital. And in some instances, you might then also be able to learn how to trade better so that you're increasing your winning trades every single time, whereby you are making, let's say, more each time. And if you continue to still put the 10 rather than increasing the percentage to 10% on the higher amount, then it is not going to get you as much return as you otherwise would have. So there are lots of really good shortcuts if we are open to listening to what the other person has to share as well. So we have our blind spots. It is good to just step back, listen, and evaluate rather than attacking, which is natural, which you're going to be doing automatically, but that's not what we want to do. And I'm just going to quickly say there's so many amazing people who've been joining on Bigo. Alexa, thank you for all the amazing things. Not sure why you are saying sorry, because you sent lots of really amazing things. Thank you for the heart. And Anna Goodship also sent some really nice little things. And Mike Griffith is joining us. And let's have a look. Yes, lots of amazing people. So I just wanted to quickly say hello to everybody who is there. Let's continue. Dalio principles. After all, when two people reach opposite conclusions, someone must be wrong. Shouldn't you want to make sure that someone isn't you? This failure to benefit from others' thinking doesn't just occur when disagreements arise. It occurs when people encounter problems that they are trying to solve. When trying to figure out, most people spin in their own heads instead of taking in all the wonderful thinking available to them. So this is something that I do a lot. If I have a problem, I will go for a walk and think about it. But then I will take all of that information that I thought about. Rainbow, nice to see you. Thank you for the heart as well. And ID 8178753990. I will then take everything that I've thought about by myself and go and talk to friends of mine. And I will ask them for their opinion. I'll ask them what is happening in their frame of mind with regards to that problem and what their solutions are. And generally speaking, I will find a better solution among my friends, or we'll come up with something that combined is better. This is why I love setting up masterminds for the people that are in the cash flow groups that I run. And there's a lot of benefit because they have the ability to share resources, to share ideas, to brainstorm ideas together. So you might have 5 ideas among 3 people, and then 2 of those ideas combined makes an even better solution to the challenge that you might have. So this is something that I do with the people that I work with as well. Okay, let's continue. As a result, they continually run toward what they see and keep crashing into what they are blind to until the crashing leads them to adapt. Some people almost never adapt, though. Those who adapt do so by A, teaching their brain to work in a way that doesn't come naturally, The creative person learns to become organized through discipline and practice, for instance. B, using compensating mechanisms, such as program reminders. And or C, relying on the help of others who are strong where they are weak. Differences in thinking can be symbiotic and complementary instead of disruptive. For example, the lateral approach to thinking common among creative people can lead them to be unreliable, while more linear thinkers are often more dependable. Some people are more emotional, while others are more logical, and so on. And when you combine those and do it together and be open to what the other person is also suggesting and work together with them on the challenge, rather than fighting each other over the challenge, working together on it, you're going to get such good results compared to what you do just by yourself. None of these individuals would be able to succeed at any kind of complex project without the help of others who have complementary strengths. Aristotle defined tragedy as a terrible outcome arising from a person's fatal flaw, a flaw that, had it been fixed, instead would have led to a wonderful outcome. In my opinion, these two barriers, ego and blind spots, are the fatal flaws that keep intelligent, hardworking people from living up to their potential. Would you like to learn how to get past them? You can do it. Everybody can. Here's how. 3.2, practice radical open-mindedness. We are going to leave it there for today. Hope you enjoyed that. A little bit similar to yesterday. Our commentary a little bit similar to yesterday. If you missed that really good part that we spoke about yesterday that was repeated and I referenced back to it, you can watch the replays of these videos because we record them all. So we've got the whole recording from the beginning of Principles up until this section here with my commentary. And that is available on YouTube. You can find it at the Passive Cash Flow Club, our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe because one, you'll be notified when these videos are uploaded, but two, we also answer your questions. So we've had lots of questions come through about 2.5 weeks ago. We made about 14 videos. We're going to release them every week. And it might be a question that you asked. And if that's the case, you'll know when it's uploaded. Or it might be somebody else's question, but it's still relevant to you. It might help you solve one of your challenges. And feel free to keep sending your questions in. I love answering your questions, whether it's economics, whether it's investing, whether it's passive income, whether it's real estate, stocks, whether it's cryptocurrency, whatever your question, I am willing to either answer it if I already know the answer or look it up and speak to my friends who are experts in all these different areas in order to be able to help you get your question answered and get you greater results and greater success, which is what I really love. So send your questions in to Instagram. You can find me at business_team_6_official. You'll be able to see what kind of amazing other things that we are up to, networking events that we run, cash flow simulator nights. We have cash flow board game days. We have all sorts of really amazing things that are going to help you be able to go from where you are now investing wise, whether that's zero and getting you to practice without real money, and then getting you across that bridge into doing small things in real life and then building that up and building up that confidence, or going from wherever you are right now to improving and doing more in real life and not having as much fear around maybe taking that next step. So if you're interested in any of those kinds of events, if you are keen to know more about the cash flow simulator or the board game nights or the networking events that we run, also get in touch on Instagram, business_team_6_official, and we'll send you the details of whichever one of those you're interested in. So I look forward to seeing you either on YouTube at the Passive Cash Flow Club, where you can watch the videos and subscribe in order to be able to get your questions answered, or on Instagram. I'd love to get to know more of you and actually have a conversation with you. I've noticed a couple of people that have returned. Rainbow is back again, and I would love to get to know you and Young God and a couple of other people, Mustafa, who come regularly. Thank you, everybody, for the hearts as well, as we're also live streaming on Bigo at the same time. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let you go to get into your day to start achieving some really amazing things. But before I go, remember to make the switch to unlock your rich.